Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. wanted to get this watch party back in action. It's been a little while since we had a chance to do it. Remember back in the days, my friend Richard Doyle and I would do this, and here we are. I think it's time to talk about the latest update. A lot of stuff happening in Onshape, and I'm so happy to see some friends here joining on the show. Michael Task, so thank you so much for joining us. You always have some awesome renderings going on in the forums, the contest and everything. So definitely check out the forums there. We'll pop into the forums and take a look at some of the comments and go through some of the updates live. Right? There's going to be a ton of things to show in the session here today. So let's just get started. All right. So share my screen. First things first, right? All right. We are live. Let me just take that banner off just to have a little more screen real estate. There we go. Okay. So first things first, we're 1.194. That was the update, came out Friday afternoon. And there's a number of really, really big improvements that I remember. I've been here at Onshape for like 10 years now, right? And there's been some things that, are like, oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't even know I needed that. And then there's some other ones that are like, yeah, this is something that is really important, needs to be added, and it needs to be done in a way that makes sense, right? So the first one, here is Cody, who had put together a really great video on wrap. Let's play the video, and I'm going to kind of go through it myself too, and go, build something live here as well. But if you take a look at Cody's video here, and I'll just exit stage left here, you'll notice that, we have a configured, cylinder, hydraulic cylinder or something here. And, we want to wrap the part number, on this like crazy kind of curved face, right? Not just a, one direction curve, but you can see that it's a conical one direction kind of developable curve, right? So prior to this update, it would, you'd have to like kind of do some tricks to get the text on there. You might split a face or something like that. Try to get it close, create some reference geometry and planes. You could certainly get close to what this effect was, but now you can just go ahead and wrap, right onto a surface like that, right? So let's just jump into something, right? I'll just create something conical, some kind of cup or something like that. And nothing too crazy here. I'm just going to whip up a 3-inch diameter on the bottom, and I'll extrude that up at, let's say, 5 inches, and we'll give it a taper, right? 5, or we'll go 5 degrees. Why not? All right, so we have a cone right now. We have cones. There's also things that are in Onshape that are also conical, that this will support, like an actual conic on the bottom of this cup, right? If you're in the consumer product design or any kind of thing like that, conics are extremely useful things to have, right? So, creates a nice blend right there. So let's go ahead and wrap something on here. I'll just create, on a plane inside of here, polygon. And we'll make sure it's centered like that. And we'll say it's 6-sided and it's 2 inches inscribed right there. Of course, the only degree of freedom left is just this right here. Maybe I'll even put in some text below it. Something like that. All right. And of course, we could make that line up vertically. I'm just hitting the letter V on my keyboard. We got some new keyboard shortcuts in this release. But, what we're talking about now is wrapping on conical faces. So how can we do that? Well, let's just search for the wrap function, right? I just like to search for it over here. Of course, you can find it in the drop down in the middle. And let's just go ahead and do that. So, in the wrap function, if you haven't seen it before, you have three different choices. You could just simply split the faces. You can have it create surface bodies that you can do things with, and then solids, which are pretty powerful. You can actually like create a solid removal. You got the tool, which, in this case, I really, make it easier on myself if I'd actually created that logo as a separate part of the sketch. I'm going to do that actually because it just makes it a lot easier to work with, right? Your tool is that entire sketch, and then your target, is the face, right? And of course, you can see, I just rotate it around. There it is. Beautiful wrap right on the surface here. If you want to like remove it, there we are. Of course, you have all sorts of on-screen controls, with that. Okay. And of course, if I picked this kind of face, actually, let me just go back to the tool here, and target could be that bottom surface as well, I think. Tried that earlier. Maybe not. All right, let's just go this way. Remember, the split options are also here as well, right? So I can just take that on this target. You notice if you don't, get it placed exactly the way you want in the parametric sketch originally, you can, move it, rotate it, and do those kind of things as well with detailed positioning and angles that you could parametrically, control, of course, down here at the bottom. So just, this has always been here, but now we support wrapping on a conical base. So um, definitely a big request, and it opens up the possibilities of what you can do much easier. All right. Next up, let's go to the next improvement, which is the reference manager improvements. So, this is one of those things that are like an Onshape thing, right? Like it's really difficult to do this if you don't have the entire history of the entire document, right? That's something that you know every Onshape user knows that when you go in to a feature or a change, when you make edits, right, every single thing is always saved, right? And then the version history, the version graph here shows you, each and every moment that was committed, right? And we can use that to our advantage, right? Because now we can edit healthy moments in time. If you've been working with something, a design with somebody, you're working collaboratively, some person made a change that you might not expect. You made a change, you walked away, whatever the reason is, you come back to your model, and the reference plane is gone, or whatever, right? Let's just kind of make something weird happen here. I'm gonna get rid of my top plane here. And now I have a bunch of failing features in my feature tree, right? So if you take a look, how if I had just, like closed out of this, walked away, got a coffee, come back, the next day, like, what the heck happened, right? How do I get back to it? Now, of course, I could just kind of search through the tree, but this is a very simple tree. If you had a part that you've been working on for 6 months with like 28 different branches, right? That's going to be, you know, where would you find the moment in time where you want to like repair it, right? And that's this new edit healthy moment option that we have, these repair manager improvements. So we've had this repair manager for quite some time. You can see here at the top here, this hammer and wrench shows you, that I could, select a moment in time, and it brings out this manager showing me what the model looked like at that moment in time, and it even locks my view together. But I want to, I would have to like find the moment in time that I think would work, right? To kind of repair, what was going on, right? So that's a little bit of guesswork. So instead of doing the guesswork, what I'm going to do is just right click here and say edit healthy moment of sketch one. So you can filter your thing, but your feature list by errors. This is hit colon and type in errors. You can do it that way, or you can just filter it like this. I just click that. errors. And it's showing me anything with an error. So that way it kind of filters your list, showing you just the failed features. And I'm going to go ahead and edit the top one right here. Usually that's, start at the top and work your way down, or bottom up if you just made a change. That's how we used to teach it in CAD back in the day. But now it's saying select a sketch plane, right? It knows that this sketch has lost its sketch plane. It's showing me the plane in the past that I had selected, highlighted right there on the right side reference manager. So this is really cool. Now I can go in and find another sketch plane that makes sense. Looks like it was the top plane. If I click it, there we are. I might even hit the final button. That way I can kind of say, oh yeah, that seems like it's the right thing, right? So, really, really powerful functionality to repair a model that you forgot how it worked. You can kind of go back in time because we have that full history, right? That's really the big improvement there, is being able to get to that really quickly. So, in looking through the list of forms here, if we scroll down here, there's a lot of kudos to this, right? I can see John here, healthy moment repair. Evan Reese, healthy moment, right? These are just really good quotes. I think most people are saying that this is their favorite right now. It's always good to kind of remind people that there is this repair tool. It's really cool that it's here, and we're making improvements to the existing functionality, right? So it's nice to see the improvements there. All right, let's keep on going with copy and paste configuration inputs. All right, so this one, if you create configurations in Onshape, you already know how cool it is that you have these different types of tables that you can build. Right? You don't need Excel. You don't need to go to some external app. You just have your configuration inputs in Onshape, either as variables, as Boolean operators like checkmarks, and then with a drop-down list, right? And you can really go hog wild with this, right? You can have conditional visibility now, as we added that in the last update or two. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and you might want to reutilize or repurpose some of these inputs, right? And since it's not like a spreadsheet where you're just copying and pasting a bunch of data, this is more of like a database driven approach. I want to just copy, all of the inputs with their values in many, I want to be able to I don't want to copy the value. I want to copy just the foundational structure of what I want to control. This comes in really handy when you're going from a part studio to an assembly, or if you have a similar product where you have similar inputs, right? So let's kind of go through that, right? Let's go through this sports wheelchair. Open this one up. This one has a bunch of configurations in it. You can see, I have this configured so I can change the colors of the frame, wheel, right? And then various parameters for the height, right? Maybe I want to change this to 380 or something like that, right? So, a bunch of things that are coming from the frame. This frame is actually a linked document, as you can see. It's versioned from another place. So, this is a pretty, complex example here because we got, we have configurations being set for all of these things, right? If I go in and say change configuration of the frame, I can see that it's, I'm configuring the color. And you can see the variables if I click into this: width, depth, height, right? So there's 4 different things I'm changing on that frame. And then there's, if I edit this here, you can see there's 4 different things on the seat and the color, right? So imagine you wouldn't want to create all those things all the time, for each part studio and assembly, right? You want to be able to just reutilize this information without having to have transcription errors and things like that. So how would I do this? Let's go to the parts, and I'll go to the frame right here. And if I look at the configuration panel, there we are. Got a bunch of stuff already set, right? Seat width, seat depth. We got dimensions, hooked up, but we have the same inputs. I want the same inputs back in my assembly, right? So if I wanted to, well, let's just go crazy here. We can go back in time if I delete too much, right? Let me delete all my configurations out of here, right? Delete. Yeah, I might break my model a little bit, but that's okay because we're going to hook this up. And I'm going to leave one of these in too, just to show what could happen too if you're copying and pasting. You've got some inputs, but you want to paste more inputs in here. So I'm going to go back to the parts, go back to that frame. You can see I have all these things already set up, and I want to copy all of the inputs, right? So I can copy one or all of them, right? If I just want seat width and depth, I could just copy each one, right? But I'm going to say copy all of them, right? And I'll go back to the assembly, and I'm going to paste them all. Now, how do you paste them? You just go down here to the bottom pop-up menu here, and you can see we have the new option for paste inputs. Okay. Now, it really was pretty smart here because I had this previously configured, so everything just kind of hooked back up all by itself kind of automatically. But if it didn't, right, it may not because you're copying into an assembly that wasn't configured at all before, right? The names are not, then you might not have parameters hooked up yet. You would have to go back in, of course, and hit the change configuration option and just hook things up again, right? You would just go here and type in hashtag or pound, depending on how old you are, which term you use. And then I'm gonna say, I can just go ahead and place that all in there, right? So back to width, and all of your inputs are going to be here without having to type all that stuff again and again. So really, a very powerful function here. 250 is too narrow. We'll say 400. There we are. So everything's working, as you would expect, right? So let's see, color. Oh, maybe I need to hook that back up again. So I'm going to go to the wheel right here, change configuration. And there it is, green, green, green. Oh yeah, I have to hook them up over here. See, this is why we do this live, so we can see what's going on, right? Now I can just go ahead and modify my configuration inputs, right? Figure with color, just like that, right? And now I can go in and do my mapping exercise. Pretty cool. All right. Now if I go here, it's silver, seeing Onshape do its thing. There we are. The frame is now silver, and of course I could configure the composite wheels and the other things like that the way you would expect. So this obviously a massive time saver, and it really kind of extends the benefits of that. So thanks for I saw a lot of comments in the forums here on this one too, that people didn't even think they needed it, but it's really cool, right? Being able to copy and paste all that. All right, next up, let's move along to the improvements to the sheet metal form features, which were introduced in the last update. Sheet metal form features done in a really, really powerful way in Onshape. You don't even have to build form tools they can just be cutouts like this. Like you can see, you might have a standard cut or a standard punch in your shop for certain things. You could create punches for that. You could create knockouts and create louvered forms like this. And of course, every one of these form tools has a sketch that drives it, which is obviously very helpful for the flat pattern, right? When you're creating the DXF output for your flat pattern to go out to the shop for the bending and cutting, you want to show where the center of that form tool is. There may be times where you want to hide that for whatever reason, right? So let's just go in to a piece of sheet metal. I have bring our friend back, the heating mantle. I've been trying to bring it back to life here and improve it a little bit. So let's go over here. Here's the flat pattern. Here's and you can see, on the flat pattern, I have a bunch of louvers or lances. Go in here. Yeah, bridge lance. So in this bridge lance, I have obviously the center point showing up as a sketch element. That's, from the library element. We put the point in so that way we can locate them on the flat pattern. Now, if I want to hide these in here, you might, be trying to right click here and hide it from here, but you're not going to find an option. So the way to hide this is to actually go to the feature right here, form 1, and hit the hide button right there. And it's not going to hide the geometry of the feature. It's hiding the sketch information behind it. It's kind of consistent with like any other kind of derive. If you inserted a derived feature in Onshape and it had sketch elements under it, if you hit that eyeball next to it, it would hide the reference geometry that the derived feature came from. But that's so it's similar to that. So that's consistent with that. So that's the easiest way of exporting that. And of course, if I export this DXF from here, I should be able to see, everything here, right? You can tell it to include the form feature outline or not, right? This was from the last update, and then form feature center marks. Maybe you just want the center mark and not the outline. All you need is the punch location. Let me just export that again so I can store it in a tab in the document. That way I can view it, right? There we are. So added it right here. Oh, that's an old one. That's my old one. Hold on. Delete that. I just have to expand that zip file. I'm on another screen right now. Just I'm gonna bring in the case. I'll just import that. I told it to export all of the where is it? DXF. Case. There we are. And that's the latest one. You can see the points are now showing up as point elements right there. Actually, it's a line. It's 2 lines, 2 center. It's a center mark with 2 lines. So yeah, and of course, this is just the viewer built into Onshape, the DXF view. It's the you can view it. You can even subscribe to Iriscudo inside of Onshape. You can see that's what I've got going on here. That's why I have all the tools to actually draw as well in AutoCAD format. I forgot I had that. All right, so that is a little more on hiding the actual sheet metal form feature from the flat pattern view in the 3D model. This was just a little bonus I thought it'd be cool to go there. So all right, what is next? All right, drawings. We're on the drawings, right? So break dimension and show dimension line drawing property, right? So these are now new choices in your drawing templates. So if I go to a flat pattern, this is let me just update the model here. And under my drawing properties now, I have some new choices for how break dimensions and show dimension line properties are shown. So let me just go over here. It's not that huge of a deal where I have to make a huge example online here, but let's see what Cody made for us. You can see here in the drawing properties, break dimension by default, meaning Let's actually do it live. All right. So if I had a dimension and I wanted to cross it in some way, I'm gonna ISO drawing here. Let's just go to millimeters with decimals, and I want to perhaps drop in another dimension that crosses something. Let's put a I don't have a good example here that I was ready for. My apologies. So just want to have it cross something like a chamfer or hole. You can see what's happening here. It's actually, breaking, the dimension line here. So if that wasn't set, underline break dimensions by default. Let's see if I can make this happen. Yeah, it's not breaking them now, right? It's that little break in the dimension line. I think if I'm understanding this correctly, that's what's going on. So that is what's happening. So you can set this option now in your template, right? So if you like export this drawing template, you get it all set up the way you want. You save it as a drawing template file, DWT, right? You call that out as your like new company format that everybody would be shared into. That would then now be part of that template, and moving forward, all dimensions that everybody uses for that template would have that check mark on by default or off by default, depending on what you want, right? So that's really what we have for break dimension and show dimension line. Those properties are now in here. Other things before I get to the rendering one, there's a couple of interesting functions. If you're in the feature script, go back to the what's new list here. We've had lambda functions, the ability to kind of call out, let's just show it right here. So easier ways of kind of displaying in a more human readable format what your mathematical operation is, right? So being able to kind of call it out in a more modern kind of format, I think that's really what this improved lambda function is. So, Cody has an example here where he's just kind of showing that, but if in the um, this is actually very useful, not only just in feature script, but also as you're typing in any kind of inputs as well. It's just, it just makes it easier to read. If you're into feature script and you want to like just call out mathematical operations in a more readable way in feature script, that's really what this is about. There's a new global import permission if you're on Enterprise. So Onshape Enterprise is all about like, the most it's the best environment if you want to like really have the most control over what's going on in your Onshape account, right? Because you have all these different global permissions inside of Onshape Enterprise. Like an Onshape professional account has quite a deep list of permissions, but Enterprise really breaks it down into granular things like, who can create releases, who can approve releases, who can manage geometric items, right? There's all the different things that are allowed to happen. New in this update, and this is great for library management, right? If I go in, I can set which users in my organization are allowed to upload and import files into my enterprise. Like I don't want to have like 25 different versions of a Bimba cylinder in my Onshape account. I want a library administrator or a team of people who is tasked and responsible for importing information into my enterprise. And that's what I could do, right? I could create an individual, right? It might be just me, right? And add that. Or I might have a team of people. right? Some library type person. Maybe I'll call it my manager group and add that. And then maybe I would remove all company users, because by default it's set to all company users. So we didn't like block people from uploading. That would be, a bad thing to do without telling anybody. But here, as an admin of your enterprise, you can now go in and say these individuals or these teams of people can now, be the ones to import stuff into my beautiful Onshape enterprise that I don't want to have any kind of duplicate information. So much better for workflow for that kind of work. Also, new in this update, more for a personal choice, right? Is what you have for your keyboard shortcuts, right? So if I go to my preferences, right here are my keyboard shortcuts, and we have some new ones that are unassigned on my account here. Create release. Since I don't use Control S anymore, right? Because I use Onshape. I don't need that. So maybe I would. I'm on a Mac, so I would do Command S. That one's already an Onshape one. So let's do Control S right there. Or maybe Option. Yeah, Option S is now going to be create release. Because I'm just trying to play off the old save as thing, right? But now there it is, Command S, and in any computer I go to release an object, I will now have that as an option. If I hit Command S or Option S, there it is. It's going to ask me to select my workflow and move forward. I was talking to our head of product the other night at our, we had an event at our Boston office in the Seaport, and he thought it was a really good idea to kind of set keyboard shortcuts to all the different viewing modes now, like thickness analysis and those kinds of things, right? Now that that's also an option for the keyboard shortcuts, right? If I go to thickness, right, I can see that it's not set, for that. So I would just go back to my account under my preferences and thickness analysis will be in here. There it is, unassigned. I just did a Control F because, browsers let you do that, right? Control F or Command F on my Mac to do a search browser. And I can say Option T. It's used by the tab manager. I don't actually use that keyboard shortcut too often, so I'll override that. Why not? And now I can do thickness analysis. Option F. Or Option T, I think it was. Yeah, there it is. So wicked cool that I can just have that tied to a keyboard shortcut now. Let that go ahead, and there's my thickness analysis. Just like that. Option T to turn off, Option T to turn on, right? So think of your viewing modes. That's probably a cool way of thinking about it. So thanks for that tip, Greg Brown. All right, finally, just some visual stuff, right? Some Render Studio. And I got to call out Michael, Pasco on this. So, there was some really, nice imagery that I saw in here, showing the volumetric effects here. So OpenVDB is a file format that you can program and bring in Onshape and create, smoke or steam or fire type effects. Onshape, obviously, Render Studio is a static image. So, that image that you saw, you're doing some cool stuff, Michael, with some app I know you have. If you look into the forum, there's the render battle. I'm sure you'll learn a little bit more about how this was created, because the animation is not created in Onshape, but the image, original image was. So, how would you, import and use these things? It's kind of a, it's a render thing, right? So let's go into this our ISO mantle again. All right. So the thing you'd want to do is you need to create like an object to represent the steam or the fog or something like that, right? Actually, I'm going to do it on this because that's similar to what I did for my other example, and yeah, I'll just shell that out or something. We'll have some steam coming out of this cup. So I'll just label this as a version one. Obviously, when you're doing rendering and stuff, I always like to have a branch because you might be setting up your scene a little differently. And then on the top of this cup, I'm just going to draw a huge cube, like a really huge cube, like something like 1,000 by 1,000, and I'll extrude that because it's got to be like the entire shape, that the steam could be possibly, in, right? Maybe that's a little big, maybe I'll make it a little smaller, but I'm going to rename this the cup, and I'm going to name this the steam. And I'll just change the appearance of that to make it completely transparent just so I can see again. All right, that cup might be too small for this cube. Let me just go down by half. Now you can change these dimensions in Render Studio as well, right? Because you have transform functions in Render Studio as well, where you can kind of make certain modifications to the scene there as well. I'll just go ahead and label that as a version, create a Render Studio now. All right. And yeah, let's just drop this studio in. That'll give us the two parts. All right. So to apply the texture to the cube, I'm going to search in the database for OpenVDB. All right. And I'm going to apply that, to that object, right? To the steam. Assign that. I just found it in the tree. Now it comes in with like this refraction. That's why it looks like a prism or something like that, right? So I'm just going to go in to the environment, or the not the environment, but the appearance properties tab right here. Hide that. And I'm going to change the index of refraction. Right now it's set to 1.2. I'm going to set it to 1 so that there's no, it's not going to refract, like a prism. Now, how do and let me just change my background because you're going to want to see, having a darker background will make this easier to see. I'm just going to put it in a dark room. All right. So how do you get the, you want to work with that OpenVDB volume. It's just a parameter now that I've assigned to that material. How would I modify the properties and get the OpenVDB data in here? So you cannot author OpenVDB data inside of Onshape, but you would pull it in. Now, where would you get this from? Now, if you Google OpenVDB, you go to openvdb.org and go to download. There's a link here. I will put that in the chat right there. So from this page, you can see, there's some different sample models. Fire, here's a nice head. We got, bunny cloud, smoky bunny here. There's all these different things. You got water. Remember, Onshape's only doing a static image. So, you're going to get one frame of something that looks like this. So I have like smoke 1, smoke 2, right? You just find it and download it, right? And I have, now I have that in my downloads. So how would I use it? Well, you would go in over here and you'd browse to that downloaded object, right? You would import that. There it is, smoke VDB. And now that will be available for us to use. Create a version. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Did this earlier. Obviously, I did the example. So let's see what's going on here. Obviously, I'm doing stuff live, so I sometimes will not have the right workflow. In there. Huh. It's kind of unfortunate. I don't know why I'm not able to bring that in. I know I just versioned that and smoke should be there. I see it. Go back and re-render. All right. So let's try that again one more time. Steam. Appearance. Set that. Let's try to import it one more time. If not, you see the example that I have on the website, but this is the process I used. I must be doing something completely wrong. So yeah, let's just go back to the example I made earlier. So essentially you get it set. You upload, I've uploaded that earlier. So there's the one that's already in here. And you get to set like other parameters, like, the size of it and its location. And you let it render and you got to kind of position it like, in your scene, right? Because this is like a created file that you don't really have too much control over. You can't like change, all the parameters of where this effect is. Now, if you want to learn more about like creating effects like this, and I'm gonna like start learning about how to build my own somehow. There's some programming involved. There's a GitHub library, that you can look at, and I'll just stick that in here as well in the comments. But in here, let me zoom in. We can read that. There. The GitHub project is here for creating these types of objects, right? So this is all available here, open source to make your own environments that you can drop in to your rendering. So it's takes a little work, but if you need that level of realism in your design, this is how you do it through Open BDB volumes. There's a couple of things in the changelog as well that I thought it would be good to bring up. Let's see, where were they? If you're using the Onshape education environment enterprise, classes and assignments have received some improvements. Here's a better example of that lambda syntax. If you're into that, right there, you can kind of see how it could be read out. And support copying public documents with a destination folder selection. Let's just take a peek at that. If I go to my public, I want to take a copy of the coffee maker here. There it is, copy document 2. And now I can go to my company and then tell it where to live. Yeah, it's a nicer workflow. That makes it much easier, actually. Let's see. Anything else that's in here that's a big hitter? Allow adding computed property values to custom tables for debugging linked documents. So yeah, if you're building custom tables, this can be helpful. If you don't know what a custom table is, you should. It's a very, very powerful thing in Onshape in the Part Studio environment for let's go over here, custom tables. You can have all sorts of different mathematical parameters that you can kind of keep track of, right? So I have Here's like a custom hole table, or here's the old style cutlass, or attributes relating to this that you might have defined via feature script, or if you're doing the wiring inside of Onshape, you would have table data for that, right? If I go to the wiring portion, there we are. So there's my wiring, and if I go to the custom table for wire data, there's all my connections, my from to list essentially, and my wire table. These are examples of custom tables that you can implement in Onshape via custom tables, via feature script, and know that you have full capability for adding computed property values now to custom tables for debugging linked documents. So yeah, that's really what I had. I went over just by a few minutes. I thought we'd get through it in 45 minutes, but I got always a little excited about what's going on here. So I really want to thank everybody for joining me today. We'll keep on doing this, right? And tell your friends. We'll make it a party. We'll have lots of comments and feedback relating to all sorts of Onshape goodness, right? So every 3 weeks, right? So hope you have a good time. Hopefully you enjoyed the update. If you have new feature requests, you can do it right in app, right in product. Definitely interact on the forums as well. And thank you everybody for joining me here today. So thanks again. See you next time.